You know, I've got InfoWarsHealth.com, and I like to, every week or so, get a guest on who's involved with the longevity products that I'm heavily involved with, the Beyond Tangy Tangerine, all of it. And I was looking at a list of people I could have on that are involved. There's a bunch of really cool people we're going to be getting on very soon, including some, well, I'm just going to leave it at that. But I saw this name. I said, Mike Glenn, the Stinger. I wasn't even a big basketball fan because I didn't watch a lot of TV. You know, I'd watch the playoffs with my mom, who was a bigger sports fan than my dad of basketball. Well, my dad was always working too hard to get into sports. But I mean, I was a fan of the Stinger. I said, Mike Glenn. And then I went, wait a minute, I've seen him do interviews. And one time I was staying at somebody's house and read a few chapters of one of the books about, the real black history in this country and some of the amazing people that you never hear of. And then I was kind of in a quandary. Should I have him on about longevity and InfoWarsHealth.com, or should I get Mike Glenn on about his books, which I've ordered and I'm going to end up reading? Because I remember going, wait, I read part of one of his books and had to leave the book there. And because so many times you're busy, you don't finish a book, even though it was interesting. I didn't have time. I was visiting some friends a few years ago. So I wanted to get him on today about, also he has a basketball camp for hearing impaired children. He's just a really, really, really interesting individual, MikeGlenn.com. And he's the guy that got so many of the other big NBA people, like Theo Ratliff and others that we've had on the show, got them on the longevity products. And those testimonies are up at InfoWarsHealth.com. But these really are miraculous. But I don't have him on the infomercial. We'll plug it later in the hour and go to some of your phone calls here. But, Mike, it's good to have you on, the Stinger.
So much. It's a pleasure for me to be on. Thanks for that wonderful introduction. Just happy to spend some time with you, sir.
You bet. Wow. Well, where should we start? Talk about your books, because what's interesting about them is you don't just cover, the folks that are more famous. Some of them are in there. But you talk about just how interesting, because I personally, like Buffalo Soldiers, all that stuff. Yeah. I mean, black history in America is not exactly what we're taught on the nightly news.
Well, you are so right, Alex. Appreciate you asking me about that. And, Alex, I grew up in a household where my dad was a coach as well as a teacher, and my mom was a teacher. So we were reading. We had study periods even in the summertime. And Mom had this question after the study period. She said, okay, now what lesson did you learn from what you read? So we always had to be able to tell a lesson that we learned. If we had a speaker in school or we read a magazine, newspaper, or book, she wanted to know what lesson did you learn. So this kind of stayed with me, Alex, throughout my life. And after retiring from pro basketball, I decided to write some books and center them around lessons that I learned, whether they were lessons from my collection of books. I own thousands of books that I've collected, rare first edition books. And I decided to just start writing series on lessons that I've learned. And my first one was, I went to my NBA teammates, ex-teammates, foes, opponents, and it was titled Lessons in Success from the NBA's top players. And I went to all of those players, Alex, Michael Jordan, Shaquille O'Neal, Karl Malone, John Stockton, all of them. And I asked them what's the two most important lessons they learned to be successful in basketball and life. So the first book was very interesting. A lot of coaches, a lot of teams, a lot of individuals bought it. All the NBA players love to get other people's perspectives on what made them successful. And then I did a lot of other history and research through the books in my library as well, and started writing biographies. I started writing about the integration of sports history. I looked at history before Jackie Robinson. I looked at African-American athletes that preceded Jackie Robinson who were kind of just swept under the carpet, forgotten, and never mentioned again. So I told a lot of their stories in one of my books. And then I also wrote on Frederick Douglass, the pre-Civil War years of Frederick Douglass and his impact on America and society. So those are kind of some passionate areas that I've written about, talked about, gone to a lot of places and discussed them, and really enjoy even exhibiting, Alex. I collect rare first edition books, so oftentimes I will bring with me some first edition books so people can see the power of these books as documents of American history. For one of my favorite ones is Frederick Douglass's book, Narrative of the Life of Frederick Douglass, an American Slave, written by himself, which he wrote in 1845, and it was published in the Anti-Slavery Office of Boston. So I'll take this book and I'll show them when it was published and the content, but the book itself is a document of history. So I kind of combine all of these things together and make it very fun and interesting and bring history to life and try to, foster literacy and research and study as well.
You know, I've actually got a painting of Frederick Douglass in there in the office. We're going to create a new set that's got a bunch of paintings of famous people that I admire. Wow. And I've actually read the book you're speaking of probably 20 years ago.
Yes,
amazing quotes and ideas about liberty. In fact, I paraphrase one of them. He said, liberty and freedom is never given. It's taken, it's demanded, to paraphrase that quote.
Absolutely right. What a tremendous job. You're so right, Alex, and it's so worthy of everybody. It should be a must-read for all who haven't read it, and in all schools as well, because he certainly was a proponent of that, fighting for liberty continuously and agitating and petitioning and understanding how freedom works and how things that are not for your freedom work against you. So one of his first speeches, as a matter of fact, my mom, one of her favorite quotes was this one that I've kind of carried with me, and I've labeled one of my exhibits that it was, as Frederick Douglass, as a young boy, about 8 years old, Sophia Old, who had, and her husband Hugh, had been the people that were in charge of him, had enslaved him, and she had taught him how to read at his request, and he learned a few things, and they were going to show her husband Hugh what he had learned, and all of a sudden Hugh said, "Hey, what are you doing teaching that slave how to read? Don't you know that if he learns how to read, he won't be fit to be a slave anymore?" So that was a quote that Frederick Douglass remembered the rest of his life, my mom's favorite quote as a teacher, and it was kind of important to me. Once you learn how to read, it won't be fit to be a slave anymore. And it was a proponent of, he said that was the pathway from slavery to freedom was through reading and literacy and learning who you are, what liberty is.
Mine as well. I mean, growing up, I happened to get into history books just because they were so action-packed every page.
Yes, sir.
And then if you know history, you know how humans act over and over again. So right. I can now recognize the oppression and the modern attempts at slavery today that are more sophisticated. Like I have all the Department of Education documents, wow. And they're in Charlotte Iserby's phone book-sized book when she was the head of policy there, where they actually planned to dumb everybody down so they could be brought into a collective. And they're now coming out saying, you know, the state owns your children and the state will control what you do. What's your view on the new authoritarianism we see growing today?
I think you got some excellent points there, and I think that's why it's so important that we continue to read, to study, to learn, to look before the surface, because, Alex, you're so right. Everything is so short-term, surface, look at the top, keep it moving, short attention span, so people really never look below the surface and see the long-term implications and what this actually said and take time to dig deeper. I totally agree with you. I think there's so much of that in society today that everything, rather than being elevated, you don't have people in positions that can help elevate the thinking, the thought process that goes into progression. You have so many people all across the pages of the book that now are just talking, and there's really not much substance to it. So I think there is a dumbing down for sure, and even when you read from people of a century ago, you're, wow, look at how they wrote and thought. It was a lot that went into it, maybe more so than we see on a day-to-day basis today.
Well, you're absolutely right about that. I mean, there's so many great quotes I just pulled up here of Frederick Douglass, but people might not get all they work for in this world, but they must certainly work for all they get.
Yes.
And then he goes on to say, this is a shortened version of it, power concedes nothing without a demand. It never did and it never will.
Yes. That was one of his most famous ones as well. And, you know, he was just saying that you have to continue to work and to agitate and to knock down walls of resistance and to fight hard for what you want. And that it was a glorious quote that very, very well said by Frederick Douglass in 1857. So, yes, he has some fabulous quotes. I mean, all of his three books were just fabulous documents of American history and good history books as well as just perspectives on liberation and self-empowerment.
Mike Glenn, the Stinger, NBA legend, is our guest, MikeGlenn.com. Here's another one. The limits of tyrants are prescribed by the endurance of those of whom they oppress. You see, they want to break us now with the whole, police state, the wars, all of it. Mike, what is your view on where humanity is today?
Well, I think there's still, as long as there are voices out there, you always have both sides of the coin out there, and I think we have to be really diligent in keeping forth the positive voices on humanity, to break down barriers that separate people, bring people together, show a light of leadership in a progressive way that gives opportunity, supports working hard, achieving goals, believing you can do things, not allowing people to suppress you.
Exactly, but see, Frederick Douglass talked about a real progression, meaning humans getting better. Yeah. What about the socialists that take the word progressive and have now created counterfeits? How do you deal with that?
Yeah, it's not an easy thing to do, and you have to keep your voice heard. I think, Alex, you certainly, and the more we hear voices that show another way, a better way, I think through all these voices that it gives opportunity for people to find a best path. As long as they believe that they can do it, as long as they have the energy to fight, to push, to achieve, to learn, to grow, they'll create those opportunities. So that's one thing I do, Alex, whether it's through nutrition, whether it's through history, whether it's through deaf people learning to be assimilated into mainstream. I want people to know that they can empower themselves. They can have their dreams. They can live their dreams. They can accomplish things, and the self-empowerment.
Well, Mike, that's what I picked up. That's what I picked up reading one of your books, is that I get the thrill out of teaching somebody something, or I get the thrill out of seeing people excel. Yeah. And there are just so many out there that are so pitiful, they think when someone else excels, that's bringing them down. And there are people that have excelled that think they excelled by bringing others down, and it's just really sad. Here's one more Frederick Douglass quote.
Yes.
The life of a nation is secure only while the nation is honest, truthful, and virtuous. But there's so many unhappy people out there, and I think they're unhappy because they're not building others up. Tell us about your foundation and the basketball camp, and how many folks that have been deaf or hearing impaired that you've helped.
Well, thanks very much, Alex. Yeah, my dad actually started the sports program there at Georgia School for the Deaf before I was born, so he coached every sport they had there at the deaf school, and so I grew up loving basketball, and I would go to basketball camp, and I noticed that my deaf friends could never go. I spent countless hours at the deaf school. They had the dormitories there. I stayed in his classrooms, went to the dormitories, went to the gym, went to all the practices, and I noticed they could never go to camp. They were always sad. In the summer, I would ask them, did you guys go to basketball camp? And they said there was no camp. So, Alex, I kind of made a promise to myself that one day I would like to start a camp just for deaf kids, because I thought they deserved a chance to go. They were great basketball players. They loved the game like anybody else did. So why shouldn't they have an opportunity to live their dreams and go as far as their talents would take them? So when I got to the NBA, I talked about it at several places. And as a member of the New York Knicks, I started the nation's first basketball camp for deaf kids. This was 33 years ago. So I started a free camp. First, I had about 30 kids to come to that first camp on Long Island, New York at Milneck School for the Deaf. And then I started expanding it. Girls and boys and kids were coming from all across the country to this free camp, and it meant so much to them to have an opportunity to go to camp, to include, to be included, to interact with other kids, to meet pro NBA players, to come and sign autographs and take pictures. It was just the best week of their life. So I decided that each year I would have this camp, and I would dedicate each week to tell the students this will be the best week of your life. So all of our staff members, we tell them on the first day, welcome, we're glad to have you here. This is a camp for you, and our mission is for you to have the best week of your life. So each year I average from 80 to 100 kids, and you take that over the 33 years. Some years I would do 2 camps, one in New York and one in Atlanta. Now I just do the one in Atlanta. Every summer we start on Father's Day. It's kind of a tribute to my dad, who he's passed on now, but the heritage, the legacy from him is this camp, and it kind of lives through me. And so we start on that day, and we have kids. And Alex, it's just the best week of my life. I mean, all the coaches are there because they care. Nobody is there because they're getting money to be, how much money am I going to get? It's all about caring about the kids, giving them an opportunity, loving the game of basketball, and just having as much fun as you can with it. So it's a blessing in my life, and I'm just so blessed to have people like Longevity that support. We give them nutrition. Dr. Wallach has come in and talked to them about nutrition to help their health, help their game. So we expand them. Luther King Jr., the third brothers come in, Andrew Young. I mean, we've just had not only basketball players, not only people in nutrition, but people from various walks of life, other sports. Roddy White, all-pro football receiver, came in and talked to us a couple of years ago. He said, I've never been to a basketball camp, and certainly never been to a camp for deaf kids, but it's one of the best camps I've ever been to. The kids loved him. I mean, just the hugs, the love, the real from heart to heart, Alex, cannot be beat. And so I think it's really a model, my camp is, where you got girls and boys. I have kids that can hear also. They have to come to the camp. I tell them, look, you may have a deaf coach, you can have some deaf teammates, but I want you to learn to get along with kids that are very different from you. They may speak different, look different, may not speak at all, but I want y'all to get along and form a basketball team, and we're going to play ball, and that's what we do every summer, and we love it.
Well, I tell you, people are blessed to be able to go to that. And it's another example of private individuals taking action, building their dreams, and helping others.
Yeah.
Mike Glenn is our guest. I tell you, when I saw that name on a piece of paper, I said, wow. He's doing interviews about health and the things you discovered with that. But I said, I want him on about all this other stuff that I knew you were doing. So the Stinger is on with us right now, MikeGlenn.com. And we're going to post this video of this radio interview. If you're a TV viewer, you're obviously seeing it now, but for radio listeners, by tomorrow, we'll have this interview posted up at InfoWarsHealth.com if you're a radio listener and want to be able to see the TV side. We're going to go to break and come back and talk about health issues, longevity. You were one of the people that got into it very, very early, and you've gotten so many other NBA people into it as well, because anything I promote is something I truly believe in. And longevity and the products at InfoWarsHealth.com are the best out there. But also, it funds our operation. Just like you were saying, longevity helping fund stuff for deaf kids. I don't think people know that Dr. Wallach's won against the Food and Drug Administration himself 3 times, with other lawyers 7 times. We've had some of those lawyers on. These are the famous cases that allow supplementation, period. And I just can't believe the type of guests we get on. But these guys never brag about themselves like Dr. Wallach and others. So we'll brag on them with Mike Glenn, the Stinger. Straight ahead, I'm Alex Jones. I had tried everything. I'd cut back the amount of food I was eating. I was lifting weights and jogging, but nothing was working. My body was literally starving for minerals and trace elements as well as key vitamins. And as soon as I had that, I immediately could eat half of what I was eating previously and be satisfied. Now, there are hundreds of great products at InfoWarsTeam.com, but I want to point out the 3 that have helped me lose 37 pounds in just 2 months. Products like Beyond Tangy Tangerine, Pollen Burst, and Rebound. When I started taking the Tangy Tangerine and other products every day, I lost more than 37 pounds in just 2 months. Now that's results. I want to challenge my listeners to go to InfoWarsTeam.com and to order just 3 of their products, and you will see the changes in the way you look, feel, and in your appetite almost immediately. Start your journey to health and wellness today. InfoWarsTeam.com. Well, we've got the Stinger on with us here. Mike Glenn, a very famous NBA player. For those of you that don't follow the NBA, like I didn't follow it much, and I always like watching the Stinger. But I guess people like the guy that's a little bit smaller than everybody else who's kicking their butt. I think that might be what it is. Is that why you were so popular, Mike?
Yeah, that's part of it, man. The little guy, and I always shot the ball so well from the outside. That's how I earned the nickname, the Stinger, Alex. So, and then I played the game like you try to live. You just play it as an expression of who you are. So played hard and played fair, and, you know, I think people like the way I played the game, too.
You've got a film coming out that just won a big Christian award, and you're going to be doing screenings on that. The system obviously doesn't want films like this out there, but it's got some really good reviews. Tell us about that.
Yeah, thanks very much, Alex. It's called The Spirit of Love Movie.com. TheSpiritOfLoveMovie.com. And it traces my growing up around deaf kids, and then it goes all the way, goes forward to my running this basketball camp for deaf kids, kids coming in and different personalities and characters, and going through the camp and having an all-star game at the end where we play against very good kids that can hear and talk. So it's a great movie. I mean, so many great messages of sharing, inclusion, and it's like the film says, The Spirit of Love Movie.com, the Mike Glenn story. So we were in Texas during All-Star Weekend at the Texas Christian Film Festival, and we won the most inspirational movie of that festival. And then we have 4 out of 5 doves from that rating agency as well. So right now we're doing screenings. We're looking for the right distributor. My producer, Dollar Ray, is out of Denver. And so we got a screening in Denver in May. We have one in Atlanta coming up in May. And so we encourage people, just go to the spiritoflovemovie.com. We got the Facebook and all those social media things, Alex, that I'm not the best at, but we got it there, so they can interact that way as well.
Well, very exciting what you're doing. I mean, already so successful monetarily, everything, and to still be working so hard. That's what it's all about. Mike Glenn is our guest. I wanted to have some positive things today. Now, you're also on the Sports Advisory Board for Youngevity, which is, by the way, folks, growing to be one of the biggest vitamin mineral companies out there. And that's why I chose them as a sponsor a few years ago, because I'd seen amazing effects here on crew members, even though it's not advertised as weight loss, losing 97 pounds, myself and stamina, because I'd gotten out of shape doing nothing for about 10 years. My mother, triathlete, just says it's incredible. And it's all available at InfoWarsHealth.com, and your purchase there on the site at InfoWarsHealth.com, I should add, also funds our operation to a great extent and what we're doing. So you're buying from the good guys and helping us build our liberty-oriented media organization. But you got Theo Ratliff and other famous NBA stars in on it. Theo was going to have to retire. That's on record. Gave him, 10 more years in it and $30-something million. Break down your experience with Doc Wallet, when that started, and why you promote Youngevity.
Well, thanks very much, Alex. About 14 years ago, a friend of mine named Phil Oliver, who worked in sickle cell, and Doc had helped him with a lot of sickle cell patients with how they could be healthier through mineral nutrition. And so he insisted, he was very persistent, and he insisted that I try these minerals. And so I did use them. And it really helped me tremendously, and I started sharing the story with others. And Theo is a very interesting story also, because I was talking to one of the other players on the Hawks. I was doing color analysis for him on TV, and he'd had some problems, the health problems that he couldn't find a solution to. And Theo overheard me. I wasn't even talking to Theo. And Theo was having problems himself. He had a detached bone, and I think you've had him on, so he's probably gone over.
Yeah, but go over it again. It's important.
Okay, Theo had a detached bone in his hip. That was his biggest problem. And in his knee, he had bone-to-bone arthritis. It would swell so big after games, they would have to drain it. He had a problem with his ankle. He had a problem with his wrist and a degenerative disc in his back. Theo was finished. That's why Philadelphia traded him to Atlanta. They knew the guy was at the end of his rope, and his career was going to be over. So he was facing all of these surgeries. The doctors could not help him. And so he said, Mike, I want to talk to you about what you talked to Alan about. So we took him out to dinner. We told him he was mentally deficient. He would never get healthy through all the surgeries and all the things that they were recommending to him. So we put him on 90 essential nutrients. He was very diligent. We introduced him to Doc. Theo regrew cartilage in his knee. His back was fine. They gave him MRIs. They did all kind of things, and Theo was fine. So he signed several more contracts. He got everybody's family on it. Theo became a big proponent for Youngevity. And Phil Oliver, the guy that introduced me, and we said, man, we need a drink, an energy drink, a nutrition drink that we can put Theo's picture on, and we can really share it with other athletes. So we tossed around and came up with the idea of rebound, because it's a basketball term to rebound to basketball, and he rebounded his career. So we came up with the name Rebound. And so Doc Wallach and Steve Wallach and Richard Renner, they all worked with us, and we came together. They had a wonderful product. We sampled the different flavors, and we came up with one. There are a couple that worked very well, and had one with no green tea for zero caffeine effect. And from there, Rebound hit the market about 7 years ago, and it has not stopped. It's just grown like wildfire. And Alex, I'm so appreciative of you also furnishing this voice to be heard about nutrition, about Rebound. We've seen instrumental growth. Other NBA players are taking it, other football players, baseball players, little leaguers. Everybody is beginning to see they can have a real nutritious advantage. That's what athletes live for. We live for that little bit of difference, because that's the difference.
Well, take Gatorade. Gatorade's got 3 ingredients, Youngevity products, up to 90. Yes. And here's the bottom line. I don't promote things that I don't believe in. And, I told people buy silver when it was $4 an ounce, and it's gone up to 50 at some points, 30-something right now. I said get gold when it was, $300 an ounce, and it's gone as high as 2,000. The point is, I really promote what I personally decide to do. And they, my dad's an oral surgeon and a dentist. He knows a lot of other physicians. He's in healthcare management, not just in dental stuff. And he says doctors are seeing classical scurvy with people that are on fast food diets and, don't get the green leafy vegetables. No one will tell them you've got scurvy. No, hospitals don't even say eat fruit. No one will tell anybody that America has off-the-chart diabetes and off-the-chart cancer because the fertilizers they're using have 3 chemicals or 3 minerals in them, not the 90. And it's not rocket science that people need the Rebound, the Beyond Tangy Tangerine, the Pollen Burst Plus, all this stuff, and that's why we sell it at the lowest prices at InfoWarsHealth.com. People can sign up and get free shipping there when they sign up at InfoWarsHealth.com. You can sign up for auto ship and get free shipping. That's a big discount. You can pay $10 and become a distributor and get discounts. But bottom line, it's a win-win-win. I don't get taxpayer money to fund my operation like MSNBC. I have sponsors and I have products I sell that I believe in, and it's very, very simple. Look, I'm the same way. 3 years ago, hey, Youngevity's great. Yeah, I know who Wallach is. I believe in it. They'll be a sponsor. Kind of sat there. Then I watched my wife, my mother, my crew go crazy with it, and then I finally tried it. More stamina. All of it. One side effect is I feel like I'm 25 again and want to kick everybody's ass, but excuse me. But really, my body was missing out on this.
Oh, yeah, Alex. Everybody is. If you can't live a regular diet, live here in America, and not be missing some of those 90 essential nutrients, it's just impossible to do it. I don't care if you're an athlete, if you think you got the best nutritionists and doctors and all this, you'll be like Theo Ratliff falling apart with the best moneyed positions and everything all around you daily, and your body's falling apart. So he saw the picture, so everybody has. And I would just encourage him. I take 90 Essential daily also, and all of these former athletes, Alex, that I see, and all the retired players meetings and all of these things, so many hip replacements, knee replacements, and they're always asking me, Mike, ain't it hard for you to get up in the morning sometimes? And no, man, it's not hard for me to get up any morning at all. I'm taking 90 Essential nutrients.
Listen, Ted Anderson had been to 3 doctors. He was going to have knee surgery. Mm-hmm. When I'd go up to Minnesota, the owner of this network we're on, he would hobble around all over the place, and then he went on all the Youngevity, and the surgery isn't needed. The pain is gone. Break down from what you know from Dr. Wallach. What are the vitamins and minerals doing, and why won't the system tell people this? Because surely the system knows this as well. I guess they want you to be sick so they can do surgery on you, or what's going on?
Yeah, well, you're absolutely right. As you know, there's so much money in the pharmaceutical industry, so many lobbyists, so much money. Every commercial you see, you're going to be totally inundated with all these messages and images of this is how you go to be healthy. And anytime you hear something contrary to that, you just automatically go against it. Like, no, that's not what I heard. That's not what I saw. So it takes a really open-minded person to empower themselves to have health and have a better life. And that's the message of whether it's history or science or nutrition and health. You have to empower yourself to make a change in your own life. And so what happens to athletes, Alex, is we sweat out all of our nutrition at an accelerated pace. So that's why we don't have calcium. That's why our bones get brittle. That's why they need so many knee replacements and hip replacements. It's so common. And then you have things from diabetes and other things because we sweat out daily from all the practice, all the sweat. We lose a soup of nutrients, not just one. You can't just take 2 or 3 nutrients and replace the whole soup that you're sweating out daily. And so we have to get this message to athletes when they take it, when they rebuild. We just do it at an accelerated pace. Everybody's going to happen. For everybody, if you're losing your nutrients, you're going to have some kind of disease or illness as a result from it. It's just a cause and effect situation. So now we get a lot of athletes to understand that you have to really. So I have to take it twice a day. I'm still working out. I'm still maintaining. I'm still very active. I'm the analyst for the Atlanta Hawks. So I'm traveling all over the place and doing a lot of work like that. So like Dr. Wallach, man, doctor's like the best athlete. I tell him the only doctor I know better than Dr. J is Dr. Wallach. So we have athletes on it, and they're seeing the results.
By the way, meeting him in person and knowing, what is he, 72, 3, something?
That's right, in his 70s, yes, sir.
And the guy looks like he's 55.
And acts like it. He looks in an accent, man. He keeps moving, lecturing, doing over 300 lectures all across the world, and showing that energy and that the charisma and the personality to keep this keep this wonderful company going in the direction that it should be.
It's amazing, and again, you know, being a quote my own salesman, you know, to get to promote liberty, everything. Yeah. It's so easy to sell the truth. It's so easy to sell what you believe in. I mean, I couldn't imagine people out there that are selling things they don't believe in. I mean, it's so simple. Youngevity really is miraculous products, and I hope people will go to InfoWarsHealth.com. I hope that they will take action. The toll-free number is there on the site, because I just want to challenge people to try the Beyond Tangy Tangerine, the Rebound, the Pollen Burst Plus, all of it, the Ultimate FX, the Alex Pack, all of it, because once you actually try it and then make yourself continue to take it for a few months, if you don't see dramatic response, I'll eat my hat. The toll-free number for folks that want to call and ask any questions or sign up for the free shipping is 888-789-9277. Or again, the number is on InfoWarsHealth.com, 888-789-9277. Now, I'm here ranting and raving with the famous NBA player, The Stinger, who I know was everybody's favorite when I was growing up, because we all like seeing the little guy sit there and get around all the big guys and make all those impossible shots. Anything else you'd like to add about Youngevity before we move on to fatherhood? I know that's one of your favorite topics.
Yeah, well, absolutely, Alex. And I think you hit on it, hit the nail right on the head. And you mentioned some outstanding products. And this company is built around the core essential products are minerals. And if some people don't have a ton of money, and that's what we tell them, look, you can just get some plant-derived minerals, some cherry minerals. They're only $20-something a piece. But you start with that. And once your mind and your body has been expanded, you're never going to go back. You're never going to go back to living without the nutrition. It's going to keep you healthy and energetic and moving forward. And people are going to be asking you, why are you feeling so good? What are you doing? I mean, it will show. And a Rebound product gives you energy. I mean, healthy energy, not just caffeine and taurine. It gives you nutrients that will give you the energy. And what I like to tell people, too, Alex, energy is attractive. I don't care if you're a male or female or an athlete. When you see an athlete running with good energy, you attract it and you keep your eye on them. I don't care if it's a lady's walking, she's got that pep in her step and she's moving and she's got energy. That is what is attractive. The complainers, the whiners, that's not going to be attractive. It's not going to propel you forward. So get the nutrition, get your energy, get your health back, and then you can be what you're supposed to be. You've empowered yourself to move forward.
Absolutely. Now, not only you're out there helping deaf kids, not only you're out there helping people with nutrition, to spend a few minutes about, in closing, about your father, because there's such a war on fathers, a war on masculinity in this country. And so let's end it talking about fathers.
Absolutely. Thanks very much, Alex. Boy, you sure hit all my passionate areas, man. We have one mindset there. And I like to see that. I like to promote fathers. There's so many fathers like my father that had a huge impact on my life, introduced me to sports, introduced me to deaf culture, left me a legacy. All I had to do was plug in and keep it going. The power, the energy, the foundation was already laid for me. There's so many fathers like that. Just last night on the Braves game, they interviewed Mr. and Mrs. Upton. And Mr. Upton played at Norfolk State. He was an All-American baseball player. He's a scout now for one of the teams. He has two sons that are playing for the Atlanta Braves. He has B.J. Upton and Justin Upton. And a couple of nights ago, they both homered in the last inning to win a ball game. And here this father was who had all but created this. I mean, this father had created two sons that were playing Major League Baseball at a tremendously high level. So when you have that kind of love, that kind of support, that kind of direction, it can lead you to so many wonderful things. So we have to recognize them, Alex. We have to take time to thank these fathers and recognize these men and encourage others to do likewise. There are countless examples around us. We just don't always recognize them and pay homage to them for the outstanding work they've done.
Well, sure. I mean, if you look at the collectivists and the socialists, they want the state to be the dad. I read a Hitler quote about that yesterday, and they say if you build up fathers, you're tearing down single mothers. Single mothers do some incredible stuff, but you're 4 times more likely to end up in drugs or in prison if your dad isn't there. And so even if things aren't perfect, it still doesn't matter. Having the dad there is what it's all about, and it's like, you know, having 4 wheels on a car. The dad's 2, the mom's 2. You've got to have those 4 wheels. And that's why fatherhood is under assault, and you just can't argue with the results of having a dad at home.
Oh, you're absolutely right, man. And you're right. It is an assault on him. I mean, I even see cases in society that I'm very much familiar with. You saw Michael Jackson's there. They will always be kind of negative. He was too hard on Michael, this, that, and the other. He created the greatest figure group maybe in the history of the world. And his son, tremendous. And you look at Venus and Serena and what their dad, who had this dream that he could raise two daughters that could be great tennis players, and he went about doing it from looking at a video. So there are tremendous things that these dads are doing, and there are always people trying to put them down. So I totally agree with you, man. The fathers play a very, very important role. We start our camp on Father's Day. We acknowledge that right off the top. We have some dads that come who are coaches that are doing tremendous things. And the last thing, I got this one former pro player, Derek Anderson. He was homeless, man. He had a kid at 15, raised his son.
Times the truth is looking at you right in the face. If you look at animals, deer, cows, you name it, elephants, I've seen this on TV in Africa. They'll reach with their trunks way down into the mud and find the minerals and eat them. And you'll see deer go up to certain rock formations and just sit there eating, chewing on rocks. And you're like, oh, the deer are crazy. No, their body knows it needs minerals. And the old-timers, and this has just gotten bigger the last decade, you can get it in Himalayan salt, some of the trace stuff. You can also get it in some of the clays. But the old-timers across the board knew, especially when women were pregnant, that you were supposed to eat clay. People, oh, look at the old-timers eating clay. They're crazy. It's the real wide-spectrum minerals. And I'm done plugging that. We're back on Fathers with the Stinger, Mike Glenn. Mike, finish up your point about the guy that was homeless.
Yes, Derek Anderson. Derek Anderson was a homeless young man, and he had a son. And at 15, he worked 2 jobs to raise this 1-year-old son, and often he would sleep in the gym. But he was so determined to be a success, practiced ball, got a scholarship, went to University of Kentucky, won a national championship, played in the NBA, and that gym that he slept in from being homeless as a 15-year-old is now named after him, and his 1-year-old son that he was taking care of now works with him as an adult in his business. And this is the kind of examples that the father can be, and I see it oftentimes, and we don't hear about it. He's the kind of person that comes to my camp that tells my deaf kids that they can be successful, and he's an example of that fatherhood starting at age 15 in those kind of circumstances to be a tremendous success. National championship, NBA champ, Olympian champ, Derek Anderson. So outstanding young man with a new book called Stamina out. And I just wanted to praise him as well, since you mentioned fatherhood and what a tremendous father he was and is to his son.
Well, it was Hitler that said, first you've got the women, first you get the women, then you've got the children, so follow the men. And socialists, authoritarians, fascists always target the children and the women and try to remove men out of the equation. And we're seeing that happening today, and that's why the work you're doing, Mike Glenn, MikeGlenn.com, The Stinger, NBA legend. Thank you so much for your time, and I look forward to speaking to you again. And if you ever come through town in Austin, I'd love to get you in studio.
I will certainly do that, Alex. I appreciate you greatly as well. Now, you take care. All the best to you.
Visit Infowars.com and PrisonPlanet.com. When you're on the site, you can also tune in 24 hours a day to my daily radio broadcast. There's also a free iPhone app to listen to the syndicated radio show when and where you want.